I can actually remember that event because I was looking around and there were like people on the side of the street just looking and staring. I couldn't hear anything. I thought maybe I was dead or something. It was just whispers of, and they were moving like in slow motion, pointing at me. And I just felt blood oozing down from my head and everywhere else. And the next thing I know, I woke up in the hospital. And I found out what happened. I had hit actually a Nigerian soccer player. He's a professional soccer player. I hit him head on in his BMW, and I ruined his life. He had to quit playing soccer for the rest of his life. His name was Christian, and Christian happened to be a Christian. And I know that it had to take everything in his heart to wheel into my room and to see how I was. I was the one that ruined his career, and yet he wasn't angry with me. He wasn't mad at me. Christian was Jesus in the flesh that day, and he forgave me that day. He forgave me. And you would think after an experience like that it would change something in my life. But it didn't. I got better. I got out of the hospital, and I forgot about Christian. I still didn't get it. I still just ignored it. I needed to forgive my dad. I needed to forgive the church. I needed to go back. And deal with that stuff in my life. But I wasn't ready to yet. At heart, I was a hedonist. But yet, I was a smart enough hedonist to know I needed to make a lot of money to support my habits. The only way to really make your money was to own your own company. So I started working with this company thinking, well, here's something I can do. And I jumped into computers, and this was right when the PC was getting big and Windows was coming out. And dude, this is like dating me, I'm old. So this is ancient stuff. But I was working with my dad, and I said, you got to go PC, this big iron stuff. This is dinosaur stuff, man. This is yesterday. Let me come and let me reinvent your company. The only way we could connect was business. There was no love, there was no emotion behind it, because I think deep down inside I was always striving to please him and to have him be proud of me. I was working with Candy, actually, who was kind of my assistant in sales, and she helped and did a lot of stuff at the company. And Candy ends up becoming my wife, and she's still my wife today. Through that period of time, we ended up falling in love. And so Candy and I ended up starting a business, and actually we started a few businesses, and we made lots of money and lost lots of money. And each time that we would make it, we thought things were great. We would just spend it all on drugs and alcohol. We ended up spending a settlement that she got for $60,000, and I think we spent all of that on drugs and alcohol. And at some point in time, I would just black out. And whenever I blacked out, and I'm ashamed to admit this, but when I blacked out, I would beat my wife. I don't remember ever physically hitting her, but I saw the after effects the next day. And I tell you, it just ripped my heart out. But I wouldn't stop drinking. I wouldn't stop doing drugs. I couldn't, because if I did, I would have to face all that in the past. I wasn't willing to change. And so the pain continued on, and it got worse. We ended up moving from South Carolina to Southern California. Candy's family was there. The only thing I didn't like necessarily was her brother was a Christian, and I didn't have any real friends that were Christians because, they're lying hypocrites. Can't trust them. Around 1995, Candy and Corey, who was my brother-in-law now, we decided to start a new company. It's a .com company, and this was right when the internet was growing big. And we're like, one of the first 10,000 websites on the internet, and now 10,000 are being created like every day. We start getting attention, people start talking to us, and then we get some seed capital that comes in. And so all of a sudden, we're making great salaries. I mean, we had people that were offering us, it started with $10 million for our company. And I think the largest offer we got that we turned down was $25 million. And at that time, there was only 3 of us that had stock. I mean, you're talking a lot of money. And Candy and I basically had controlling ownership of this company. But I wanted it all. A millionaire, a multimillionaire was not enough. I wanted to be a billionaire. I wanted it all. And we're caught up in that world of power. And then the next thing I know, it's starting to crumble again because I'm still doing drugs. I'm still drinking every night. I would go to bed drunk. I would wake up still drunk. I would get stoned at night. In between, during the day, I'd be popping Vicodin and pills and Valium and everything else to get through the day. And then I started doing cocaine. And I carry a little bullet of cocaine so I could, get my ups and my downs. And it totally changed me and who I was. And I was still abusing Candy. And she was, I think, at this point in time, I'm not sure she had a lot of love for me left, as much as she was looking for the bailout too. Well, as soon as the company goes, and boom, we could split and be done. Well, through this period of time, we also started to have a lot of problems, Corey and I, fighting for the reins of the company. And so I'm becoming, in my manipulative ways, I decided to set him up. I got Candy to actually go in there and fire her own brother and take away his stock. And his stock would have been worth, I don't know, $8 million if we just sold it for $25 million, and we stole it from him. Just like that. It was right after that I go into the hospital for what's called a pancreatic attack. Through years of drug and alcohol abuse, I developed acute pancreatitis. And every once in a while I'd go in the hospital with an attack. An attack was really painful. Well, what happened during an attack is right after a big, huge binge night or something like that, I would go and eat the next day, and the pancreas would be swollen so much that the tubes were swollen shut. And so the enzymes would actually be activated on the inside of the pancreas. I mean, it would eat you from the inside out. I mean, it's incredibly painful. You go in the hospital for like 2 or 3 weeks. They pump you on tons of morphine, which at that point in time I thought, dude, that's kind of break even. But I had a lot of these attacks, and they started escalating in intensity and frequency. Doc goes, Greg, we need to talk. You've gotten to the place there's just nothing else we can do for you. And I said, what do you mean, nothing you can do for me? And he just looks at me and he goes, well, you're terminal. What do you mean I'm going to die? And I said, well, how long? 3, 4, at the most 5 years? 3 or 4 or 5? Are you saying I'm going to die in 3 or 4 or 5 years? And you can't even tell me when, and you can't do anything about it? And I felt this rage kind of well up in me. I started ripping out the IVs and everything else, and I said, well, what do I need you, Doc? And I got mad, and I called a taxi cab, and I went to my drug dealer in Newport Beach, and I bought $2,000 worth of cocaine.